Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Smith, and this is episode 128, diving into a question that's been puzzling Bible readers for ages. We're tackling Exodus 9:19 to 21. If all the cattle died in the fifth plague, how are some still standing by the seventh plague? It's a mystery that feels like a plot twist in an ancient epic, demanding a closer look. So grab your Bible, maybe a pen for notes, and let's dig into this with a clear head and open heart. We're deep in the 10 plagues of Egypt, where God is showcasing his unmatched authority over Pharaoh's empire. By Exodus 9, we've seen rivers turn to blood, frogs invade every corner, and gnats turn Egypt into a buzzing nightmare. Then comes the fifth plague, a catastrophic livestock disease. Exodus 9:6 in the New Living Translation lays it out. And the Lord did just as he said. The next morning, all the livestock of the Egyptians died. All of them. It's a devastating blow, like a wrecking ball to Egypt's agricultural backbone. But then, in the seventh plague, a hailstorm fierce enough to make a thunderstorm blush. Exodus 9:19 to 21 says this, "Quick, order your livestock and servants to come in from the fields to find shelter. Any person or animal left outside will die when the hail falls." Some of Pharaoh's officials, rattled by God's power, rushed their servants and livestock indoors. Others, unmoved, leave theirs out to face the onslaught. Here's the rub. Livestock? Didn't they all perish back in verse 6? It's as if the story is pulling a fast one, with animals reappearing like characters in a sequel nobody saw coming. This is the kind of question that invites us to slow down and examine the text carefully. Norman Geisler and Thomas Howe, in the Big Book of Bible Difficulties, frame the issue sharply. Exodus 9:6 says all the livestock of Egypt died, but verse 19 urges the Egyptians to protect their livestock from the hail. If all means every last animal, where are these creatures coming from? Is this a contradiction, or can we piece it together without bending the text out of shape? Let's explore this from multiple angles, drawing on insights from scholars and archaeologists, because the Bible's narrative often reveals its depth when we probe beneath the surface. First, let's talk about the word all. In English, all sounds absolute, like saying, "I read all the emails," meaning not one's left. But in biblical Hebrew, the word kol, translated as all, often has a more flexible meaning. It can mean the vast majority or all within a specific group, depending on context. The writers at Answers in Genesis, in their article Livestock or Deadstock, point out that ancient Near Eastern writers used hyperbole to drive home a point. In Exodus 9:6, all the livestock likely signals a massive loss, not the death of every single animal in Egypt. It's like a headline declaring, "The wildfire destroyed the forest." It conveys total devastation, but a few trees might still stand. This nuance in kol suggests some livestock survived, ready to face the hail in verse 19. Next, consider the scope of the fifth plague. Exodus 9:3 states, "The hand of the Lord will strike all your livestock in the fields, horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats, with a deadly plague." That phrase, "in the fields," is a critical detail. The plague targeted animals grazing in open areas, not those in barns, stables, or city enclosures. Eric Lyons, writing for Apologetics Press in his piece Cattle Contradiction, notes that this distinction means animals indoors or in sheltered locations could have been spared. Think of a flood warning about boats on the river. yet your yacht is in dry dock. The fifth plague's focus on field animals leaves room for some livestock to survive for the seventh plague. Timing is another key factor. The plagues weren't a rapid-fire sequence. They unfolded over weeks or months, like a slow-burning drama. Between the fifth plague, livestock disease, and the seventh plague, hail, the Egyptians had time to replenish their herds. They could have traded with neighboring regions, bought animals from less affected areas, or, as some suggest, seized livestock from the Israelites, whose animals were untouched, per Exodus 9:4, where it says this, "But the Lord will again make a distinction between the livestock of the Israelites and that of the Egyptians. Not a single one of Israel's animals will die." Egypt was a trade hub, as Eric Alexander notes in his Biblical Archaeology Society article, The Plagues of Egypt and Their Meaning. Livestock were Egypt's sacred stock portfolio, tied to deities like Hathor and Apis. So their loss was a theological crisis. Priests and nobles likely scrambled to restock, not just for economics, but to salvage their divine reputation. These new or spared animals are the ones God tells the Egyptians to protect in 9 verse 19. Let's zoom in on the word livestock. The Hebrew term mikna typically covers cattle, sheep, and goats, staple farm animals. In Exodus 9:3, the fifth plague lists horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats. But 9 verse 6 only reports livestock dying. The scholars at Veritas Domain, in their analysis, thoughts on the evidence from the fifth plague in Exodus 9, highlight a curious detail. The text of the fifth plague conspicuously omits goats from the list of animals struck dead, suggesting they may have been spared. Could goats have escaped the plague? Or perhaps horses and camels, distinct from the mikna in Egyptian culture, were unaffected? Like Genesis 13:2, where Mikna describes Abram's wealth selectively. Hebrews' fine print matters here. It's like a contract targeting corporate assets, but sparing personal savings. This selective impact, as noted in Essential Church's article, A Simple Reordering, reconciling the fifth and seventh plagues in Exodus 9, explains why some animals are still around for the hail. A crucial moment comes in Exodus 9:19-21, the first time God offers the Egyptians a way to dodge a plague's wrath. He warns, "Get your livestock and servants indoors, or they'll perish." Some officials heed the warning and save their animals. Others ignore it and lose everything. This is a turning point. It's the first time God suggests protective measures. John W. Montgomery, in his paper for Digital Commons titled The Plagues of Egypt, Lessons from the Exodus Narrative, emphasizes that this warning reflects God's mercy, giving even Pharaoh's people a chance to act. It's like a chess master offering a draw before checkmate, revealing a God who balances justice with grace, much like his patience with Noah's generation before the flood. The fact that there were animals to save confirms the fifth plague wasn't a total wipeout. It also highlights human responsibility. Obedience meant survival. Defiance meant loss. Now, let's step back for the bigger picture. The plagues were a theological clash, with God dismantling Egypt's deities. David Gusick, in his Enduring Word commentary, explains that the fifth plague targeted Hathor, the cow goddess, and sacred cattle, symbols of fertility and power. When all the livestock died, it was a divine rebuke of Egypt's idols. The survival of some animals later doesn't undermine this. It intensifies God's campaign against Pharaoh's stubbornness. The hail plague, targeting agricultural gods like Osiris, keeps the pressure on, as Alexander's Biblical Archaeology article underscores. When some Egyptians obey God's warning in Exodus 9:20, it's a sign that Pharaoh's grip is weakening, with even his officials acknowledging the true God. So how do we tie this together? Here's the synthesis. All the livestock in 9 verse 6 is likely hyperbolic, signaling a massive but not total loss, as Answers in Genesis suggests. The fifth plague hit field animals, sparing those in shelters per Apologetics Press. Egyptians had time to restock, leveraging their trade networks, as the Biblical Archaeology Society notes. Some animals, like goats, may have been unaffected, as Veritas Domains quote highlights, and the plague's scope was limited, per Essential Church. Finally, God's warning in 9:19-21, as Montgomery emphasizes, shows mercy and confirms surviving livestock. There's no contradiction, just a layered narrative that rewards scrutiny. The Big Book of Bible Difficulties nails it. The plague targeted field animals, and all isn't literal. Add the theological weight of God toppling Egypt's gods, and the story is about divine sovereignty, not just animal arithmetic. Why does this matter? The Bible isn't a sterile chronicle. It's a vibrant narrative that invites us to wrestle with its depth. The plagues reveal God's power, His mercy, and His mission to free His people, even when Pharaoh's heart is as rigid as stone. When we encounter a difficulty like this, it's not a barrier. It's a doorway to deeper understanding. These details point to a God who's sovereign, compassionate, and always in control, even when the story seems to shift unexpectedly. Take a moment to reflect. When have you ignored wise counsel, like some Egyptians in 9 verse 21, only to regret it? Jot it down and share it with a friend. How can this story shape your response to God's guidance today? Thanks for joining me on this journey through Exodus 9. If this stirred your curiosity, send your questions to BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers@gmail.com or comment on our Facebook page. I read everyone. If you're finding value in this show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or YouTube. It helps others discover us. All episodes are at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers.podbean.com. Next Friday, we're tackling a weighty one, and one that skeptics love to point out. Exodus 12:29. How could an all-loving God slay the firstborn of all the Egyptians? It's a profound question, and we'll approach it with clarity and respect. Until then, I'm Lance Smith, wishing you good luck, good health, and God bless. So long, everybody.